We're in Canada's largest ghost town, and guess what I'm doing? Wrenching and welding, of course. Our aluminum dinghy's outboard mount has just been driving me nuts.
Blaine's getting annoyed by the
really annoying all the way there this way.
It's because of the waves, or what? We're coming out of the water?
Yeah, the pump comes out of the water. The motor's got to go lower.
So today, anchored in front of the old abandoned general store in Anyox, BC, I'm rebuilding it properly, or at least my version of properly. Let's see if my quick and dirty modifications actually work. Welcome! We're Blaine and Janice, and we're bringing our 1969 aluminum yacht back to life the only way that works. Tear it down, put in new tech, and do it ourselves. If you like real wrench-turning boat work, hit subscribe. A major upgrade starts in January. Alright, the time has finally come to take care of Punga. I don't know if you guys have followed, but we've basically found that the engine is mounted too high on the transom. We're getting a lot of cavitation at speed, or aeration, I guess they call it on jets. So it's too high, and likely that's to do with the fact that it is a kind of a tunnel hull or catamaran style boat, and they leveled off the motor with the bottom edge of the center portion of the hull. However, it likely rides higher because it's got outer hulls here once it's up on plane. So what I've got to do is I've got to lower this down. But unfortunately, if you look here, we are at the lowest holes already. So I can't go down any further with that on these existing holes. And it's not just a simple matter of drilling and replanting, because this is a box here and there's actually tubes that run through and weld on both sides. I did those last time. And then down here, you can see they've actually had to notch the reinforcement plate. So it would just be an enormous pain in the ass to try to lower the holes that it's mounted to. So what I'm doing instead is I've got a plate that's going to bolt to here that's just got an offset bolt pattern. It's a chunk of 1/2 inch thick aluminum with some countersunk bolts. I'll show you guys when I get it up here. You might have actually seen it already in this video, prepping it. But yeah, I've got to take the motor off of here. I got to get the plate mounted up, and then I can get the motor remounted. But that's going to require some notching on this upper transom bar here. And also I've got to notch the plate as well. But I'll do that once I've got that notch all done. So I'll have to notch, re-weld that up. But yeah, start off with just getting the motor off. Okay. Give myself some room to work. Gas can right out of there. I also have a Raycor fuel water separator I've got to put on this as well, because once you get water into these things, it's a bit of a pain in the butt. So, or once you get water into the tank. So I'll get a nice Raycor one with a lot of capacity for water and won't have to worry about it. Okay. Oh, of course it's smaller. Sorry, you guys are moving with the crane. Yeah, it's really nice to have a crane on board. I'm not gonna lie. Makes life so much easier. There we go. just take the load off of the motor a bit, and then yeah, we'll go back to Punga here. So as you can see, I've got plate here, and that plate is going to get bolted to the transom. It's got matching bolt holes to what's already there, and then I've got countersunk bolts on the back side that are threaded in to keep them from turning when I'm tightening the motor down, and they will permanently live in there. So this whole thing will get sealed to the back of the transom, and hopefully that'll work pretty well, but we shall see. Alright, so first thing I'm doing is temporarily mounting this plate so I can mark the bottom edge of it, because I've got to clean off the silicone and everything, or sorry, the bottom paint down in that area, down to the epoxy barrier, so that 5200 will stick properly, because it's not going to stick very well to bottom paint, seeing as bottom paint is made to slough off. So yeah, just temporarily throwing some bolts in to hold it. Let's see here. Okay, so after I've got that temporarily bolted in place, I'm just going to score a little line. Fortunately, the epoxy barrier is pretty tough and doesn't chip or scrape easy. Oh, come on. So, as you can see, I've got a scored line down here. So now I'm going to try to peel off all this bottom paint, which I'm not really looking forward to. I'll go see if I can find a little scraper to kind of peel off as much as I can. I couldn't find my regular scraper, so I'm using a chisel. Might take off some of the epoxy barrier, but we'll see. This is a pain in the butt. Okay, I got that surface prepped up for gluing, and then I've kind of laid the plate out on the motor, and what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to notch the top here for the saddle to go into, because right now that's only getting me down by, I think, even a little bit less than an inch. I think an inch would even be generous for that. Only about yay far, 3/4 of an inch. And I want to make sure that I have the ability to go down farther. So I'm going to notch out enough here where I can get down to that next hole, and then that gives me options. I can always come back up with it if it's too deep, but I'd prefer to only have to cut this plate once, and it's a lot easier to do when it's off the boat. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do now. So I know I need to cut or notch here and over here. So I'm gonna go do that. All right, and there we have it. I've notched that down. I don't know how many of you guys or girls have had to notch or cut 1/2 inch thick aluminum with nothing but a sawzall and no way to clamp it down. It's not a lot of fun. There might have been some choice words that happened, but it's done. So I'm going to go ahead and get this. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get these two lower bolts in that hold it to the transom, because I don't have a drill press either, so these holes are not perfectly straight with the taps. So if I thread these all the way through, which I'd have to do if I bolted this side down first, I wouldn't get it on the boat because it wouldn't it'd be too much of an angle to get fit into these holes on the back here. So I think I'm going to try to get everything kind of put together on the motor and then put the whole motor onto the transom together. But before I do that, I've got to take this plate, lay it up on the transom, and then I've got to cut the transom down to match. But at least I have a nice template for that. All right, now that I've got the motor plate notched, I've got to notch the transom of the boat. Fortunately for me, this transom metal is considerably thinner. That's box tubing, not solid, so it should be considerably easier to punch through that. All right, I now have a notched transom. I'm just going to get my sanding wheel and I'm going to clean up all these areas here, and then I'm going to weld in plates there. I've got some metal on board that I'll do that with, and then we'll be ready to slap the motor down, hopefully. Crossing fingers anyway, we'll see. I've got my piece all prepped up here, as you can see, and got it partially welded on the other side already, and I still have to make some caps for these corners as well, but I'm going to go ahead and weld this base plate in, and then yeah, I'll just make a couple of caps for that, and then I can stick all this stuff together. Looking forward to that. What I've done is I've just backed off the adjusters enough where the little caps have fallen off. They're not actually technically needed when it's bolted onto the back of the boat, but what I'll do is when I go to put it back on again, I'll just slip these in behind and just tighten them down back into them again. There is a little pin that sits down in here. I just took the little lipped off area off, so that should give me enough room to get this on here, and it's definitely the easiest of all the options. So yeah, let's try this again. All right, well, that looks pretty good, except for, of course, like I said, I've got this pin on the other side that's going to be an issue. Let's see. Not exactly sure what I'm sitting on now. Now I'm sitting on that pin. I am literally like a millimeter. Let's see if I can shift this over a bit. So yeah, I think I'm happy with that. I've just got to get it to go down a little farther. But what I might do is just oblong that hole just a tiny little bit, just to help that bolt get in there on the bottom side, because it's like most of the way there, and there's plenty of overlap on the washer there. So yeah, that's my plan. So back off again. Oh, come on. You know you want to go on there. Just do it. I think if I radius that forward edge, I'm probably going to have just enough to make that happen. All right, back one more time. Yeah. All right, I think I'm gonna go ahead and fire away with that. I think if I just do a little bit more filing here and some key spots, I can make this happen. So I'm gonna go like right here and right there. And that should just clear those two pin caps as well. Whew. This turned into a whole lot more than I anticipated, unsurprisingly. That's just the way it always works out, it seems. All right, time to make a ginormous mess. Alright, so let's start working this crap back on again. Okay, that one's good.
Wowzers.
What a pain in the arse.
Good though.
Yep, I am filming right now too.
Pardon?
I am filming right now.
That's okay. Where's the camera? Huh?
What's that? It's right there.
Hi everyone!
Janice has finally come to help when the project's almost done.
I'm giving you some moral support.
Okay. Woo!
So how close are you? What's up?
I just gotta clearance this washer a little bit more because I've slightly shifted the positioning of this motor, ever so slightly. Got really lucky. The cross pin here is like right on the sides.
Oh.
Unfortunately, I didn't have to notch them any further. So, but the engine's not going down any further than that. That being said, that's 2 inches lower, 1.5 inches lower than what it was, which should be enough.
Wow.
So we'll see. Let me just clearance this. I put lots of 5200 in there.
Yeah, no kidding.
All right, so everything worked out. I've just got a little bit of cleanup left to do here on the 5200 because I put lots on there because I wanted it sealed all the way around really well. And I think I've got that. So everything's tight now. I'm going to clean up and then I'm going to go sit up on the bow and have a beer.
And when's the sea trial? When can we use it again?
Tomorrow. It's got to cure overnight. I did use fast cure 5200, but it does need a little bit of setup time before you really start doing craziness with it.
But you're going to show them the sea trial.
Oh, for sure.
Awesome.
For sure.
Okay, keen up. I'll get the beer.
Sounds good. All right, so I have altered the transom on the boat to get the motor lower, and it is time to go out for a little sea trial with it here. So before we were having a problem where when we were up on a plane, it would, and it's going to be tough to really confirm that today because it's so flat out here, but it would cavitate or aerate. So I'm going to test it here now, see how it works out. And then I'm actually going to tilt the engine up a little bit and see if I can get this boat riding a little bit better now that the engine's a little lower and I can do that. So we'll see. Let's give it a go. So that worked okay, but as you can see, there was a lot of splashback. What that typically means is that the motor is too low. So I'm right in between two adjustment holes, so I could come up if I wanted. I'm not going to do that yet, though. I'm going to try to lift this motor up by a notch on the pin to see if I can get it riding better, and that will also lift it up a little higher out of the water. So let me give that a go. For this test, I've actually gone up 2 notches in the tilt. I'd be surprised if the boat even planes off, but let's give this a go. As you guys can see, there was a little bit less splashback there. Boat actually did plane off. A lot of porpoising though, so got the motor a little bit too high. I'm just thinking this boat will not run at a higher set point. It just likes to run pretty flat. So I'm going to take this engine back down to the intermediate notch, and I think that's going to be the happy point. And what I might do at some point is actually mount up some splash guards to keep that backsplash from being quite so aggressive, because I'd rather have a little bit more backsplash and not have it aerating all the time than, yeah. Third and final test point. This is in the middle of the two, so this is up 1 notch from the down full low. Successful. I have a feeling that it's going to be much better in rougher water where we were having a lot of issues with aeration. Still doesn't affect the ride at all, which is a little bit disappointing. I was hoping I'd be able to get a little bit more of a nose up attitude with it, but I guess it's just the hull design on this thing. It just rides flat. So we're kind of going to be stuck with that, but hopefully that'll fix all of our aeration issues, and at least I'll be happy with that point.
Subscribe before you head out, and if you want to support the bandits around here, join our online crew. They already know the massive New Year's secret, and you can too.